Today, we're going to be talking about the events that occurred in the UAE on Monday, the 15th of April, and Tuesday, the 16th of April, where there was a huge amount of rainfall. The rain gauge at the Dubai airport recorded 164 millimeters of rainfall within 24 hours. The highest rainfall, which was recorded in Al Ain, was 254.8 millimeters of rainfall, which for the region is about 1.5 to 2 years worth of rainfall, all occurring within 24 hours. So it's a huge rainfall event. It was historic in the country. This is the first time that it was observed from when recording started in 1949. This event didn't just impact the UAE, it also impacted Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Yemen. It caused landslides, it caused damage to buildings and infrastructure, and there were 33 fatalities, of which more than half, 19, were in Oman. So what we want to do today is to discuss this event and to think about the design elements that go into drainage design and how we look at this as a subject in university, and also how we can see the future for the UAE. So without further ado, I want to introduce my two guests today. We've got Dima Al-Sururi and Hazim Gouda, and I'll let you introduce yourselves. So Dima, please.
First of all, thank you, Steve, for this invite. It's such a very important topic right now, and I'm really glad to contribute. As you said, my name is Dima Sururi. I'm an urban planner by profession. Currently founder of Biospheric City Lab. It's a boutique consultancy for sustainable development. And we have a unique perspective where we look at the city as an ecosystem of systems, and we consider the relationships between systems more important than the systems themselves. I'm also an adjunct lecturer at the Sorbonne University. I teach urban planning and development.
And,
Thanks very much, Stephen, for this opportunity and to be with Dima here in the studio. It's really fantastic. My background, I'm a civil engineer by background, and then did actually master's and PhD in the UK and water quality management diploma in Holland, and then worked in the UK for over 20 years with consultancy like Atkins, water companies like Southern Water, and then academia as well, University of West of England, where we were delivering some vocational courses which to train people how to manage the floods. You know, it's in river and coastal. Actually, we created this foundation degree for river and coastal engineering, and I was one of the people who was contributing in this development of the course, you know, specifically for using the modeling, hydraulic modeling, how to model and simulate things, and we can predict, and we teach students on existing softwares. And then I moved to, working in some consultancy in urban drainage systems. It was one of my specialty, as well as project management. So I worked in projects like Crossrail project in London, and at the design in 2007, 2008, we actually had this opportunity to work in Masdar City in the design team, leading one of the discipline in wastewater. So to design the network and so on. So it was quite good, and have got some good experience in the area of the water and surface water management.
Thank you both for coming here today to talk about this topic. So let's start with what happened and why did it happen? And Dima, can you give us your thoughts?
Sure. Actually, what happened was a deja vu moment for me. Not that I have witnessed this before, but I was working in Abu Dhabi Urban Planning Council, which is DMT right now, in 2010. And we were working on the implementation of Abu Dhabi 2030. And we were working on the guidelines and the regulations that are necessary to improve resilience. Back then, resilience wasn't even a word as it is
Goodness,
today.
it's 15 years ago. That's,
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of discussion about the probability of a 1 in 75 year event that would require certain regulation. And we've been discussing this with developers. And at the time, the recommendation was to raise the development level to a certain level so that if something happens, it doesn't flood. And I remember very well the resistance we faced from developers, from consultants, from contractors, from everyone because of the cost implications of this for all developments. I think we still pushed for key developments, the ones that are vulnerable, coastal areas, but we didn't manage to push it everywhere at the time. So when this happened and people were saying, oh, it is due to cloud seeding, I was like, no, we've known about this before. This is the one thing that we recommended doing something about, and everybody was resisting. And now we're seeing it. And I remember very clearly at the time that people thought a 1 in a 70-year event would happen after 75 years from today, not thinking that when was the actual last time this happened. So what we've been reading in the news, a story that came up recently was a story that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum mentioned in his book, My Story, about an event in 1961, which was even worse than this one. And he talks about a storm that they described as doomsday. So they all didn't know what was happening. They said that they saw signs from animals, sensing that there was something wrong, because they were more in tune with nature at the time than we are today with the urbanization levels. So he mentioned clearly that this was a historic event, but the population back then was probably 40,000 people. And today we're in the millions. So it's a completely different scale of urbanization. So as a conclusion, this event was actually predicted. We didn't know when it was going to happen. The climate change is actually impacting the variability of occurrence and the intensity of these events. So we're seeing them sooner. So the event happened not in 75 years, it happened in 63 years instead. And now we're seeing more and more events. So what's happening is something that we knew about. We need to plan more in the future to build more resilience.
I was in Ibn Battuta Mall. I had a back problem, so I was going to the doctors at the time that the big cloud came over, and I remember the sky turning yellow and then a green, a turquoise color, as it was a supercell that was coming straight over Ibn Battuta Mall. I'd never seen it before, like the really strange colors of the sky.
Yeah.
So it was a phenomenal event to see. And then I had to somehow get back from the mall to my home, and I'd walked across with a bad back, and I got the painkillers, and I was up to here in water flowing and struggling not to move my back while I was wading across the road. So it was a very singular experience in my history.
Hopefully it will not happen again, you know.
Hopefully not. Yeah.
You mentioned climate change, and I've seen some stories about that coming from studies at Imperial College and University of Reading, saying that there is an element of climate change in this. And I struggle with that a little bit because I know that weather and climate are different. So it's difficult to say this specific storm it's a weather event, but it's more, these become more common because of climate change. So making that association directly is really a challenge, but it is.
Yes.
The air is warmer, it's absorbing more water. So there's climate change in there, but yeah, it's difficult to say this one event is climate driven.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is true. It's a weather event, and it's the probability of it is already known, but the climate change is changing the patterns.
That's right. Yeah.
That's what we could say about climate change impact on weather events.
And that's what makes it challenging to understand. And one of the questions that I've seen floating around is this going to happen again? And you sort of touched on this in your introduction, but people get worried about this. Like, how often does a once in 75-year event happen? You say once in 75 years, but sometimes we get two of them in a row. It's not quite as that. You can't then say the next one will be 75 years later. But what can you say?
We don't know when the next one is going to happen. What we know is that we need to be ready for the next one in case it happens anytime. So we need to act quickly. We need to collaborate. We need to reassess our systems very, very quickly.
Yes, yes. And it's good to see the announcements about that in the news just recently. Now, just turning to you, Dr. Hazim, you have been doing design within this region for rainfall events for a very long time, going back many years.
Yeah.
What could you say about the history of rainfall here and how that history is then used to inform design?
What we usually have in urban drainage systems and design for stormwater, we have to go back to the data which we had, and we, create the what we call return intervals for the rainfall. And as Dima said, the one which we have now, it was 1 in 75 or 1 in 80, you can even say that. But in reality, if you consider what's going on with the climate change, it is 1 in 65, and you mentioned this, which is true, and that's what we used to have to do in the UK. When we design our drainage system for surface water, we used our statistical rainfall data. We know the return period, but we used to actually take 30% extra precautions for the climate change when we design our sewer systems, even when we design the storage tanks. So in here, what they need to do, they need to consider this when they reassess the systems, the surface water systems they have.
Could I ask, what are the components of a drainage system? Like you start off with the rainfall, then where does it go? And what are the steps that it will go through?
That's a very good question, actually. So usually what we have, the rain, when it falls in the streets. And because the streets which we have at the moment, it's impermeable, or pervious pavements. So all the water will fall in the streets. It should go to the sides of the streets. And the sides of the streets, we have what we call gullies, or to drain, to take the water.
Yeah.
And then take it into a sewer system. It has two things: either to go to a combined system where we have wastewater and water, they go together, or it goes into a separate system where the surface water go in a separate system and then will be discharged anywhere in the sea, on the river, or wherever. So it has to go somewhere, or we can store it and we can reuse it. The problem nowadays, since the 1990s in Europe and the States, they started to think about, okay, we are taking this water and we're not using it anymore. Why don't we do what we call urban water sensitive design systems or sustainable urban drainage systems in the UK? And the idea was to mimic the nature and to take the water, absorb the water and store it in the ground and then reuse it again. You can take this water in too many systems. You can leave it in a pond, you can leave it in, swale, whatever. And this proved to be really an efficient. It reduces the first flash flood for the receiving water bodies. Because usually in the first instant when water comes from the drainage systems for surface water and goes into any water body, the first few minutes will have lots of pollution elements coming from the streets, oil, grease, and so on from cars, and this is not nice. So, but if you contain this water within the sustainable drainage systems, like using it for water gardens and so on, this is going to be safe, and we have nothing, there's no the first few moments of flash floods pollution will actually be reduced. So the integration of the urban drainage, sustainable drainage system into our system, this is a must. And here in the UAE, they have a brilliant potential for doing that because they are already growing. They have plantations on the islands, on the streets. They have lots of roundabouts. Even the roundabouts, I've been talking to my students here when we teach them that how to integrate the sustainable drainage systems into managing surface water in projects. And one of these things which I tell them usually, when you design a roundabout, this is just one example. When you look at the roundabouts here, you find that they design it to have aesthetic and nice looking, and it's like a pyramids when they do it. This means that when water falls down, it will go on the street to the road. Exactly. So I told my students, if I were to do this, I would just make it as like getting a dip down, so it can act like a bond. And I can put some lighting and put something, which can look really nice. This is only one element. I've got many other elements which can be done, and it can reduce the effect of rainfall events. I cannot say this will not prevent what has happened in this event, because this event, I've seen it myself in the UK. I've seen it in other countries. It's unprecedented here. They are not used to it, but the response from the government was amazing, and the response from the local community was very good. There is, I met a couple of guys called in Jeep. They have Jeep community, and they told me about. I've seen the Jeep car, and they tell that they have been rescuing a lot of people, and they have done it just for the sake of loving the country, loving to help the people. And they told me about the stories that some companies they give them some food and water and so on to deliver to people, and they were happy to do that, and it's amazing. So in design and things, yes, we can do a lot. We can help in how to do it in a proper way. It will reduce the impact. It will be aesthetic, to the people. They will love it, and we will save water. And this is, I think, we will come to this. How can we manage this using even artificial intelligence just to do it later.
I want to look at the future.
Yeah.
I also want to look at the design that has already happened here in Dubai and in the UAE, the larger UAE, because I know that there has been significant expenditure on infrastructure for rainfall events. And one of the key ones that was just finished a short while ago was this Dubai Deep Tunnel Stormwater System, which is in Expo City, Dubai South, and it's taking the water to a deep tunnel and then taking it out to sea and pumping it from that into the ocean. It's a major piece of infrastructure which the city has invested in, and I know that this level of investment is going on. So I was wondering if you can discuss how Dubai has dealt with design for large rainfall events, and the UAE.
Yeah, I think the UAE, they are doing the best they can do in order to contain problems and to manage problems. But the UAE has got an advantage nowadays. UAE actually, they are now a hub for all innovative ideas.
Yeah.
We should not take ideas from other countries because
No, it's one of the amazing things about the UAE. If you have a good idea,
Absolutely.
you can bring it here and you can make it work. It's something that I have observed many times.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. I mean, when you think about the tunnels is very good. You can take it, you can take the water. But how many times you're gonna use it during the lifetime of the tunnel? My
Right.
idea is, which if I was, I'm thinking, you have to think outside the box. I can make the tunnels, but make these tunnels connected to the road and transport. Use it for transport, and then later on, when it comes to an event like this, close it. We have the system now. We have the capabilities that we can block the drainage systems. We can open it using AI and so on. And this will actually mean that I'm actually optimizing the resources which I have.
There's a city that's done this, isn't it? There's one where there's a water system and then two roadways, two different directions for the road, and it's designed so that you can incrementally close it. So the volume of water that can go through the tunnel. I've seen a presentation on this for a city somewhere, but I'm not sure where this is.
To be honest, I didn't see it, but I was thinking about how to manage, because I mean in this kind of community and culture which we are coming from, we think about how to solve creatively a problem, and that's what we've learned even in Atkins in the UK. When we had some problems, we had to think about, okay, how can I get this done sustainably? And one of the things which I have done in my PhD 25 years ago, using life cycle analysis and life cycle assessment, and this made me think about the material which I'm using, the design which I'm doing. It has to be sustainable. So usually it has to be done this way, even in drain systems. So if we use the roads, we design tunnels, we use it for roads, and then when it comes event, we'll definitely know at least 2-3 days before. We can clear all the roads. We can clear the tunnel, close the tunnel, have sensors. We can drain the water, goes into the tunnel, act as a storage, pump it. End of story.
You got it all sorted.
Yeah.
I would say on the side of innovation, it's another thing I've observed here, the number of hackathons that are bringing youth in to solve a problem. And we had one just a short while ago looking at walking within the city and how to encourage walking within the city. And the students, the ideas that they came up with were amazing. Like the parks, green areas, trying to make this connect together with the transport system so that you can get out of one metro station earlier and then walk that little bit.
That's
Like
nice.
if you want to do get a little bit of exercise in the day, you can do it.
Yeah.
The ideas that are produced here, amazing.
There is one thing which maybe I'm sure that you are expert on that, Dima. But let me say that even with suds,
Yeah.
when they plant the trees and so on, this is amazing because all the leaves will take the rain. They will hold the rain. So the amount of rain which we're getting below, it will be actually much less, and the ground will be able to absorb more.
Yeah.
So the first instance of the event, we can manage it better because you still have, some time that that this will happen, and we know the effect. So people can at least reach home quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Dr. Hazem mentioned a lot about sustainable urban drainage systems, which, like you said, are trying to mimic the natural systems with the least intervention from traditional and conventional systems, if we can. Now, traditional and conventional systems, the biggest issue with them for the UAE is feasibility. If you have rain every day, the system is definitely feasible. But if you're actually just planning for one extreme event, then the feasibility becomes an issue. Now, as Hazem said, you have multiple types of surfaces in the UAE. So the more natural the surfaces are, the more permeable they are. So you could actually utilize natural systems or natural-based solutions, as we call them today. But when you have harder surfaces like asphalt and concrete, there isn't much you can do. And we have tunnels that are sometimes not even connected to any open space around them. The slope doesn't actually help to drain the water. In those cases, in those particular cases, you would still need a conventional system that drains into a tunnel and then connects and goes to be stored or released somewhere else. So I think from an urban planning perspective, we should actually look at the benefit of combining multiple systems, but focusing more on natural systems whenever and wherever we can, because the natural systems have way much more benefits than just improving resilience. This is resilience for the city, but at the same time, we're increasing the amount of open spaces that we have, improving air quality, improving noise, improving the quality of life for people, accessibility up to amenity, the visual amenity for the city, improving so many things. Even for developers, it actually increases the value of their properties. So what we're doing with introducing natural systems is not only cheaper, less maintenance, it's also adding a lot of value for the city. And that's why we're pushing for more natural solutions if we can and whenever we can.
There's several really interesting things from what you said. I'm going to try and pull out a couple of them. One is the idea of either dual systems or trade-offs between systems, because I know the traditional drainage system in the UK is designed at a relatively low gradient to allow the water to be continually flowing. And that's to try to keep the drainage system unblocked. Because if it stops flowing, then you start getting blockages forming in there, then you reduce the ability of that drainage system to work. And here, the angle that you would need would be very low to try and maintain continuous slow flow, because the amount of water generally is relatively small. But the stormwater system is a very different requirement. So it's sort of a different design. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. No, I'm comprehending. Don't worry. I'm just
goodness.
preparing. No, you're right.
We have the expert here.
This is why I worry. So yeah, I was thinking that that there's a dichotomy in the way of design for this, because we've got the everyday, and then we've got the occasional big event, which is a different design that you would want for that. So should this be two systems, one for the everyday and one for the storm, which is expensive, or is it a trade-off system? And what are the advantages and disadvantages of both of those? So ideas.
I don't think they should be two separate systems. I think they should be integrated within each other. And then, like Hazem said, the tunnels, if they're built, they're there. They can store water for whenever we need them. But I would focus on the reuse rather than the release into the sea. So in countries like the UK, it's feasible to release into the sea because it rains every day. But in arid regions like the UAE and the GCC in general, we have water scarcity. So I would focus on reusing that water whenever we have the dry seasons, the summer months, to use for irrigation systems. So it's not only a trade-off, it's complementing each other. So we've invested in natural systems and increasing the open spaces. We've invested in the tunnels and the retention ponds, and we've got the water from events. Let's use it for irrigation in the summer months when we don't have those events, when we don't have rain, when we don't have water for irrigation. So I think it's a holistic approach, looking at the city in general, what it requires, what kind of systems can be integrated within each other, and the cost benefit of these systems. I think in terms of cost particularly, we are seeing what we've been saying for a long time about any sustainability solution. Look at the true cost.
That's right. Yep.
The true cost is the cost, that we pay for inaction if something like this happens. And we've been thinking about the cost of the systems only, but what we've seen in the past 2 weeks, the cost of business disruptions, the cost of flight disruptions, many costs to the economy. And if we quantify those, then it justifies the investment in this. But still, the investment still has to be very wise to go towards improving the quality of life in general rather than putting it into concrete systems. So it's the balance and the sweet spots of using both systems and how they can be integrated and how we can utilize them.
What we actually, commenting on this, I think Dima is right. What we need usually to have, we'll have definitely two systems, by the way. SUDS will never, overtake the conventional system, because you have to integrate both of them. It can be a part of its SUDS, but when it exceeds, the water exceeds the capacity of the SUDS system, has to go somewhere.
Yes.
So that's why we're saying the delay and the integration. And I've done several studies in the UK, several designs, different, that's for sure. And I've even compared how the environmental emissions of using only conventional systems to integrated system which has SUDS for a couple of cities, a couple of developments. And even with the University of West of England, we had a great SUDS system there, which was built on the 1980s. And it was built, before all this, system. And you can see it, it's amazing. Students love it because we have a deep ground, which actually takes the water during the rain from the whole university. So during the rain, it's full of water. When it's actually dry, students go and play, have a social life, doing barbecues and so on. So the whole idea is just the integration of the two systems, and you reuse the water, because if you have the water, and here in this country, in the arid region, the Gulf, we need to think about every single drop. Maybe when we have the storm like this, sometimes it's impossible to store the water in a tank, for.
It's a huge volume.
It's a huge,
it's a huge tank.
Exactly. And you cannot store it for 7 days, 8 days, because it will get contamination. Exactly. So we need to get rid of this water. It's fine. Or we need to store it somewhere in a ground. When it goes to the ground, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So we have to have a holistic plan, as Dima said, for the whole water resources management. The project which we have here about which I have about using artificial intelligence in the managing the surface water system, where we use, some sensors for these bots for SUDS, where it will tell us whether we need water, we don't need water or not. And before the rainfall storm, we can stop. We know that what is the level of saturation of soil with water, so we can stop watering this system. So when rain falls down, it will actually stop. So we need something bigger than this, which I'm actually doing some work on it at the moment, how to integrate the whole system from desalination, water desalination, up to, using the water, reuse the water, and so on. So the whole cycle, it's really important to integrate it.
So you've mentioned AI, so I guess it is probably time to start talking about the future and what are the technologies that are coming in. What do you think will be the 10-year horizon for the design of cities?
Okay, I think the AI in the future is going to take really big attention, especially in the water sector. In the water sector, what we have at the moment, we're working in silos. So wastewater will think about the water is coming, the coming water, and then how to treat it and how much water I have to, discharge at the end. We started to think about these water reuse from wastewater, and municipalities and local authorities started to take this water in arid region to reuse it. But even the reuse, are we reusing it in the right way? Are we really using it efficiently? Because sometimes you actually start, watering the gardens and starting the islands and so on for plantations, but this is based on, every day you have a quantity of water which is automatically discharged to this. But do we really count whether the plants will need this? Does it need more? Does it need less? It's definitely they make the maximum, so they will not need less, and it always grow and so on. But we can utilize the artificial intelligence and sensors and so on, and we can know how much we really need, and we can do more plantation. In this case, we do more green areas, and this will even reduce the urban heat, in the areas, which, because we are expecting anyway that there is a increase in temperature in the next few years. So if we get green areas, this is definitely will help reduce the effect of it.
And it really makes the city look amazing. My wife is a gardener, and in the UK we used to have an allotment where we'd grow vegetables. Yeah. And here it's one of the reasons why we moved into the gardens community, the green, being able to walk around. Just seeing green calms me down. So I like to go and sit on a bench and have a look at the trees.
Absolutely.
I used to do the same thing in London, in Hyde Park, go into the centre and pretend that I'm not in a big city. So I'm all for as much of that as possible.
Yeah, this is one side, Stephen. There is other sides of using AI in water management. We have to integrate the whole system. We have to see what is the planning for the future, and how can we utilize not only the expertise of the people, but how can we utilize the resources which we have, and this to achieve what we want. You cannot disconnect wastewater from water use, from surface water management, from even drinking water, and coming from desalination plants and groundwater and so on. So it's an integrated system, but you have to be thinking holistically about it. And in this case, you will need really people from the industry plus academia. And this is what I'm thanking God actually that I've done both. So it made me think about, what is the needs, what industry needs, what our community needs, and how to solve the problem. So this is in summary.
Dima, I know that you've worked on sustainability for many years. What do you think on the sustainability future of the drainage system design?
Yeah, I think what Hazem said is very important. The systems thinking, which we are not used to, especially in the engineering disciplines. They tend to be completely separate. They tend to think in silos, to work in silos, because it's much easier, right? It's simple to solve one system. But nature does not work like that. Nature has integrated systems. If you take one insect in isolation and study it, you would not understand the impact on a whole ecosystem. So changing the way we think into systems thinking is the way for the future for us in cities. And cities are all about integration, integrated transport networks, integrated open space with infrastructure, integration with everything. The socioeconomics are integrated within the city. We don't see them as users, but there is a lot of thinking that goes behind creating a city, and it's all about integration. So for me, when I travel and look at cities, some of the best cities in the world, you don't really see on the ground what's happening behind in closed doors. And because I'm an urban planner, I think about, oh my God, how did they solve this? It must have been like a huge conflict, and they've had so many discussions to solve this. But I know the systems that went into there. I know that they had to make trade-offs between different systems. And that's kind of what we're lacking right now, is that let's break the silos, let's talk multidisciplinary, let's think outside the box when it comes to our problems, because the older solutions that we have don't work anymore. We're coming up to much bigger climate change challenges, rises in temperature, urban heat island, floods, storms, so many things, let alone like the social issues. So to solve these complex problems, the typical simplified solutions don't work anymore. We have to think about integrated solutions.
You're very right about this being an issue for the engineering sector. I remember from my time in a design office, the structural engineers one floor, the geotechnical engineers another floor, transport engineers, the water engineers, and architects another floor. And we talked to each other, but it was on the phone, or you walk through if you needed to show a diagram and discuss something. But yeah, it was very, very much this is the design bit that I'm doing. I give this number to the next team and they'll use this number to do that.
Yeah.
That integration, bringing that together is a real challenge, because you start stepping on people's toes in that office.
Exactly. That's the risk. And I'm glad that Hazem started talking about the landscape and the roundabout and the design of the roundabout. And that's a classic example of landscape architects not talking to stormwater management engineers.
Yeah.
If there was this collaboration, the design solution is very simple. It's easy. It doesn't cost anything. So that integration requires understanding of both disciplines, which is kind of rare. So I'm really happy that Hazem, you understand the design implications and the aesthetics of the city on engineering systems, and the other way around, of course.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the things, as I said, and even one of our MSc students, I asked her to do, she did her master's in comparing, again, here, she took one of the parts in one of the cities here. We got it's like a theoretical one, but we got the data from, using the Google Earth and so on, and we estimated what is the drainage, should be the normal drainage systems, and if they use the islands in the middle and they use suds options, how much we can save the environment, what is the impact of this. And it was amazing. It was a very good study. Going back to your point about stakeholder management, how to manage the stakeholders and get them together, it was one of the things which I've done in Crossrail project, because in Crossrail project we had the tunnels in the middle of London, and I was managing the service water and cables, electricity and utilities. All the utilities, they has to be removed from the tunnel way and so on.
Oh, and in London, that's a challenge.
Exactly.
And you're going back, 200 years of services, some of which are no longer mapped.
Exactly. We had, it was a challenging to get people on table and to discuss with them, and to, making this kind of discussion, what they need, what has to be done in order to finish the design on time. And they have to provide the ways which they are going to disconnect the system and redesign, and so it was one of the things which I've admire in Atkins while I was working there, that we were working as a team. We had a problem, we talk to people anywhere in the world. We have communication with our offices everywhere, so we can resolve the problem. Thinking outside the box, as Dima said, this is absolutely, it has to be done. It has to be, we have to work the systems in order to be successful. It has to be in all people working together. You cannot really think that you are the owner of this and no one else can, get into the design, get into, dictating what need to be done. It's not about dictation. It's about, how to create the the environment which can make people work as a team, and this will only come with, through workshops, discussion, and so on, and getting the right people again on board. This is really important. If you
Yes.
don't have the right people, believe me, everyone will stick to his mind. And in this event, I think in the what has happened here, there are few key people in the internationally which they can actually contribute to some, being advisors or something. So it's like, I've got my professor Richard Ashley. He's one of the key people. He traveled all over the world. He's just been everywhere, seeing suds, seeing drainage, and he's emeritus professor at the moment, but I think he is knowledgeable, and we definitely need some kind of vibrance and expertise and so on.
We need new ideas.
Exactly.
Definitely new ideas. The older ideas
It
prove that
cannot-
they didn't work and that we need to build more resilience. So we definitely need new ideas. But like you said, Hassan, we need to get the buy-in from all the stakeholders and make sure we balance all the requirements so that everyone benefits from the solutions that we're proposing.
I think that's something that UAE also does very well, in that if there is a new idea somewhere, it can be brought here and it can be implemented very rapidly. Whereas elsewhere in the world, they say, where's the use case where it was successful before they will adopt it? So here, you can get the best, newest technologies and show them working. The other thing that I think here is done very well and much better than most places in the world is the elements of forward planning. Because I've seen there was the 2040 urban plan. I think I've seen a future plan for 2070, and I believe I've even seen one 2120 with some ideas about what the UAE will be like a vision for the future. And this is a country of vision. So it's amazing the level of work that goes into this foresight and this idea of what the country will be like. And I have never seen that to that level within the UK, within the US, anywhere overseas. What do you think about the 2040 urban plan and how this relates to what we've been discussing?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, Steve, this is a country of visionary leadership, which is very different from different models, but it's very similar to Singapore. In the implementation is that everything goes really fast, and most people believe in the leadership, believe that they're working hard to improve the quality of their life. The 2040 came as one of the leadership's initiatives for the future of Dubai, and Dubai has been experiencing unprecedented growth. The population grows it exceeds the projections most of the time. So for that, you have to do very careful planning, taking into consideration that growth, that it's a hub for the whole region. It's always attracting talent. It's always attracting innovators. So it needs to actually have the spatial structure for that. And it needs to be managed well. So the vision for 2040 kind of changes from the previous urban master plans or structure framework plans, is that it focuses on improving the quality of life. It has a huge human-centric focus with sustainability, sustainable development. So that vision had so many initiatives coming out of it as a way of implementing these things. The first difference that we see from the current plan is the focus on 5 urban centers. So in urban planning, there are different approaches to cities, and many of the cities, especially the US cities, we see monocentric approach, which is you have one downtown and then the sprawling suburbs. That model is very, very unsustainable because it puts a lot of traffic on one area. The uses are completely different. At night, the downtown becomes a space for crime. It creates a lot of social issues. So the new approach is more like the European approach, which is a polycentric approach. We focus on creating urban centers, multiples of them, and each one has all the amenities that people would need. So there's a lot of focus now on implementing an initiative for a 20-minute city. And this is based on the concept of the 10-minute city that Carlos Moreno invented and came up with. And he's a professor at the Sorbonne University in Paris, actually. But what it's trying to do is to bring something that works in the UAE. So we didn't actually pick the 10-minute, we picked a 20 minutes because we're transitioning from a car-oriented city into a 10-city model slowly over time. So realistically, we're slowly going to invest in the urban centers. And then with that investment, everything that's required, the amenities, the open space, the community facilities for the people will be within those urban centers with a certain hierarchy, considering different modes of transport. And for the first time, we're seeing walking and cycling being recognized as modes of transport in here, in addition to public transport and then eventually vehicular use. So all modes of transport are being taken into consideration, and the infrastructure for these are currently under so much investment. The other initiative which we're seeing as well is the TOD, the Transit-Oriented Development, which heavily invests in public transport and plans the intensification of the city and the urban centers accordingly so that they are feasible, they are viable, they are accessible. So Dubai is going through a huge transformation in terms of urban planning to accommodate for a vibrant society and improving the quality of life of everyone. One of the initiatives as well is doubling the open spaces. So imagine by 2040, we will have double that open space. And it connects to what we were saying about the drainage system and the nature-based solution. So
this open space could be sustainable urban drainage system.
Exactly. That's the idea.
If it is designed well, it can be.
Yeah.
It's assembled because you are putting it already. So just all I need just to make a storage, natural storage, just underneath the plantations.
That's the huge opportunity we have because we have a fresh plan. We're trying to build resilience, and it can be built, little by little and piece by piece within that plan to make the whole urban master plan more resilient and more sustainable.
I remember when I first saw the plan, I was thinking about getting back on my bicycle that I used to use in London and cycling through the green parklands of the plan. And I can see that as a future. Not in the middle of summer, but in the colder months, I might get back to cycling long distances again.
Yeah, I mean, just like the West has 6 months of really, really cold weather, we have 6 months of warm weather. So it's the same thing. It's just that we have different seasons for actually becoming, for seeing the streets being vibrant.
But this is the same as, in Holland. I lived in Holland for a year. So, and we used to cycle from the accommodation to the faculty, going, to The Hague and so on by bicycle all year round. It doesn't matter if it rains, if there is a snow, if there is, so I think the design itself, people, once they get used to something, they will not care too much about the weather as long as they can reach the destination safely.
Yeah, it depends on your tolerance. I don't enjoy cycling in windy conditions. I tried. It was difficult. I prefer to cycle in the heat.
Really? I used to cycle when it's windy and raining, you can imagine.
So we've
in Holland it was difficult, but it was nice.
The wind is the most difficult.
I think we've had a good discussion about the this rainfall event and the design elements of the city, the design for the future, and the vision that is in place within the UAE. Would you like to make any final comments before we close this session?
I think what there are three things which I think this should be taken into consideration after this event. First one is the risk management, flood risk management plan. It has to be updated. It has to be, integrated with the system. So again, because we had several events before, small ones, but we know where the problems are, so we can use this data and we can analyze the data using artificial intelligence, so we know where are our priorities. This is number one. Number two, we had to check the location of the problems, and we see why we had this one, because sometimes just only because of the road levels we get buds, and this will cut the road. And whether we can make update or make the roads more take the water on the sides. Think about the design and the cities, when we have such a rainfall event. If you go, for example, if we take the areas like in Barsha, close to some areas, and we see there is lots of floods there, sometimes building tunnels is not a right solution. Building big infrastructure is not a right solution. But acquiring a land which is empty land, and we build a storage tank there, and we made the garden on the top, it can be one of the solutions if the groundwater levels, no, considering this is not groundwater, but I can prepare for the future with some solution which is not expensive. So in that sense, we need really the right people with the right expertise and knowledge between the Western knowledge and living here, knowing the conditions and what is it here, so to get the right solutions. We need to build the capacity.
You're right on that. There's many ideas are brought to the UAE without that level of adaptation.
Absolutely.
And this is not the extreme, but it's towards the extreme of environmental conditions. And so there isn't a direct, and we can copy paste this and put it here. You have to have that local knowledge and thinking of how to adapt to the situation here. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, they're absolutely right. I love what you're saying, actually. No, this is something else which we need to consider. So adaptation, training for people. I mean, usually I'm frank, in since 2000, not too many people are working in the water side, especially the drainage systems, and using hydraulic models, using the right models, and know exactly, they have the expertise on analyzing the data, knowing what is going on. So you have to get the local people trained, understand what is hydrology, what is the rainfall, and why we use the rainfall events to design our system, how we design the system. Not only that, how you can check the results of any consultants who's giving you the work.
You're going step by step through your coursework, aren't you?
I kind of. No, it is actually the way the local, not only local, but people and the local authorities, municipalities all over the UAE, they has to be really trained in that, to understand what is the concept, and we get them the latest model to use, and we train them on this. And we are here at UOWD, we are capable of doing this with the industry. So we can create this kind of, vibrant vocational training courses for them. The most important thing is the community engagement. Some people do it, for the love of the country, but they don't have a plan. We need to have a plan for the community and to train them how to, get involved in this if they want to help the community. And this is really, really important. There are many things, like I'm just because I'm working in one of the projects with health and safety in construction using chatbot, and we already developed one of the applications, which is amazing. It's doing really well. So there is something has to be developed for this actually events where people can get access to something which can tell them what they need to do according to the event itself.
Yeah, I think I would stress what you said, Hazem, is that this time we have seen new and different vulnerable areas which were not on the previous maps. So I think we need to collect data on the reasons why did that happen, and this would actually inform the right solutions for us. So we need to take advantage of actually this unprecedented events to collect more data on the vulnerability and update our maps and baseline assessments. One more thing that Hazem also mentioned is the availability of data for the public, which was a bit challenging because most people relied on Google Maps, and Google Maps were kind of sometimes giving accurate information, but sometimes they weren't giving accurate information. So this is the benefit of technology, where the emergency response would include actually informing the public more about the dangerous areas. But this was a huge event, and I think everybody was way too overwhelmed. But it's something to think about for the future as we build resilience. We also build a platform to share data with people and tell them where to go and where not to go, and which roads are closed and which roads are open. So that would have been really helpful in such an emergency situation, and it would be helpful in the future.
Very, very much so.
True.
Yeah, this is definitely going to become a benchmark event because it is historic. And you're right with the maps. There were many times where I was wondering, can I get to the university? Am I able to drive? Which roads do I use? Is it going to be safe to go to school this way, or do I need to go another way? And I really struggled to find that information. So yeah, a map that shows where the work is going and which where things are being recovering and improving would be really useful.
Yeah, similar to what happened during COVID, where they were
Yes, yeah.
publishing data on areas that have,
I
high
agree.
levels of infections, so that people avoid them, or congestion areas where, there's a threat to the public. So all of this data will become very important in the future to build our resilience as well.
And we need to think about, in the rescue team, like for example, I realized that there is not too many amphibious cars or vehicles here, the cars which can go through the water. So maybe this is one of things which it has to be done on the flood risk management plan. For each authority, they will have a couple of these cars with people trained how to rescue people quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure we have so many lessons learned from this
Yeah.
event to take into the future response and adaptation plans.
Adaptation.
Yeah.
I think we could talk about this forever, but I
Yes.
think we have to bring this to a close. So can I thank you so much for coming today and talking about this. It's been really good to learn from your expertise.
No, I really thank you, Stephen, and thanks, Dima. Actually, I've learned it from you today. So it's really nice discussion, and as you said, we can go for hours and talk about it without feeling bored or something. No, it's really nice, and it's nice to for your introduction and your discussion, and for Dima as well to have this stimulating, conversation, which is absolutely fantastic.
Likewise, I learned so much from Hazem, from you as well, Steve. I think bringing the diversity of expertise together brings a lot of ideas,
Absolutely.
a lot of stimulating ideas. So I am keen on discussing with different disciplines because I learned so much and people learn from each other. If I just talk to urban planners, we discuss what we know, we preach to the converted. So this is the right platform where you bring different disciplines to discuss and validate the ideas and reinforce the need for us to actually think between systems.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank